Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Grand Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Grand Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Grand Group by emailing thegran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners.
Men for the Win is part of the Pohlad Sports Network, covering sports, culture, and entertainment across the Midwest. Check them out at PohltabSports.com and give them a follow on all your social media platforms at Pohlad Sports. On this episode, David, Dan, and Hoges discuss the firing of Rocco Baldelli, who we'd like to see take his place, and whether or not Hoges hit a home run at Target Field. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. My name is David Kufis. With me, as always, is Dan Thompson, and special third chair in studio, Andrew Hoges Hoganson. Big news, fellas. Hot off the presses. Rocco Baldelli is fired. However, before we get into that, just a little brief announcement. This won't be our normal show structure. What we're going to do, we have to talk about Hoges' experience at Target Field. Then we're going to talk about some of the firings that have happened around the league. We'll, of course, get into the Pohlad interviews along with the firing of Rocco Baldelli, and we'll finish up with our playoff bracket predictions. But Hoges, I'm going to give you the floor before we get into any of that. Tell us about Target Field.
So just so everyone's aware, David and Dan do not know whether or not I have hit a home run yet. This reaction is their true reaction. So the question that we need to solve before we go any further is the foul ball pole. If you hit that, is that considered a home run? I believe ground rules are that is a home run at Target Field.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a home run.
I did not hit a home run. I didn't get it that far.
No chance.
No, man.
No chance, Hoges.
Well,
Not surprised.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Oh, yeah,
There was never. So we had, okay, it's pretty rare that we have listeners DM the show. Like, people will comment every now and again on posts. I had a few people who listened to the show who I know in my life who said, he's insane, right? Like, he's joking. There's no way he actually thinks he's going to hit a home run with a wooden bat at Target Field.
I got close. I got about 20 feet. I got about 20 feet away down the left field line. I looped it a little bit foul. It hit the seats. You know how it kind of juts out there? I got it into the seats before the foul ball pole. It felt good. When I hit that one, I thought I had a chance. I stopped and watched. I'm not going to lie. So just... I did not hit a home run. These are going to sound like excuses. They're not. I didn't hit a home run. It did not go out. The guy throwing pitches was throwing low and away cutters.
No.
Every single pitch, I'm leaning across over the plate and doing little bloopers over to right field. I bet out of the 50 pitches I got, I maybe got 15 strikes. The rest of them were all low. I don't know if it would have mattered because even the ones that I really connected on were still coming up short. But, man, I wasted a lot. I'm a 36-year-old man, gentlemen. There's not a whole lot of stamina left in trying to hit a ball as hard as you can. So any swing is just, the turbo meter is just...
So, hold on. So who was throwing UBP?
I was Joe Ryan, actually. That was
No, it wasn't.
I don't even know who it was. It was because it was definitely a fill-in guy because they were thanking him a ton for the fact that he was even out there.
Shoot.
So yeah, that was.
Did they fire the other guy when they fired Baldelli too?
They must have. But yeah, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done. Like running out, you got to run out of the visiting clubhouse dugout onto the field and shag balls while other people were doing batting practice. So I think I had more fun just catching fly balls in the outfield. That was fantastic. Eric and I both did see if we could try to jump over the center field wall in order to rob a home run. It is possible. I can do that, but those walls are way higher than you think that they are when you're actually there in person. But yeah, all in all, it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. I want another crack at it, though.
Okay, I have a question. Did other people who were there hit home runs? That's really what I
No,
want to know.
by far hit it the farthest out of anyone that was there.
That makes me think that I could do that and not feel embarrassed then.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. David, there were kids there that were hitting, and they wouldn't even get it out of the
Hoges,
infield.
I don't know if I want to be compared to kids hitting. Like, I was hoping to hold my own against grown-ups, but thank you for that.
Unsupervised children come home.
You're fine. Whenever people couldn't really hit that well, the people in the outfield, we just play catch because there are balls all over the place.
Well,
so yeah,
I can get it to the outfield. Though.
I know you could. But that's what I'm saying.
Hogs.
That's where you could be.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him why.
It's incredibly hard.
So
that sounder is very apropos because there were a few where I just like, oh man, I crushed that. And then you see the outfielder and you're like, oh, it's way over his head. That's why he's not moving. And then you're like, oh no, he's right under it. That's where it's going right there.
Okay, Dan, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
At the risk of this being terrible radio, go to the regular season show notes page in our workbook.
Okay. Yep. I'm there.
Then go to the series grade box.
Oh, yeah.
Where we normally fill in our Herbie's headlines, I think.
Yeah.
And then make that text black. I've currently made that white. And can you just read for me what it says?
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I think I understand. Text color reset. Hoges will explain in detail how close he was to hitting a home run. 6:23 p.m. prediction time. That's pretty close.
The truth is the truth.
I just knew it. I'm like, there's no chance. First of all, there's no chance he hit a home run. And I know he's going to talk for some reason about how close he was or why there were reasons why he wouldn't.
Just throw a strike. I mean, for goodness sake. Also, David, go stand outside. That is definitely a good gust blowing in from the outfield right now, too.
How many excuses? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Solamente uno. No, dos.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
So this means you get to play games with David here.
I do.
A board game night.
Are you excited, Hoges?
I am excited. I just listened to your guys' last episode. You have to give me the worst of the worst. Like that's just how it has to be. Like I want to leave miserable. Like I want the hardest to explain game. I want my wife to yell at me and tell me we're never allowed to go over to your house ever again after that when we're leaving. You got to give me it for all it's worth, David.
I would feel so bad.
I have never
with
done
you
that physically, and you're no match for my brain.
I have never done that where I've had people at my house and I made them play something that I knew wouldn't like fit the vibe of the evening. I don't know if I can do that, Hoges.
But you won.
Especially if your wife is coming, I would feel very guilty knowing that I could ensure that you guys have a very nice time.
Oh,
and instead
I don't know if you've met her before, David, but she is well aware of having to sometimes pay for my sins in the betting world of what I think I can do.
Oh my goodness, how you got that girl to marry you?
Time your wife.
It was so fun, though. I just one quick little thing. When I was walking off, the guy was like, did you guys have a good time? And I was like, that was one of the most fun things I've ever done. I think 10-year-old me would have died. And I mean that. Like, if I was able to do that at like 10 to 15, that would have been just blown me away. And it did blow me away now. So it's cool that the Twins let people do that. And yeah, just running around the outfield, looking up at Target Field was a bit of a dream come true. I'll have to get out there again soon, though, and get in the weight room a little bit more.
Romantic about baseball.
Did you feel when you were on the grass embarrassed about the state of your lawn? Because that was like my big takeaway was I was like, how do they do this? It's beautiful.
It almost looks like turf. And I was talking to my brother. It's so spongy and every bounce is perfect. Like we went and they let us stand in the infield too. And so we were fielding grounders a little bit. You couldn't imagine how good the bounces were. I mean, everything was so true. This will come as a shock to you. I felt like an incredible baseball player because it was so easy to judge every single hop. Like you were just never surprised. And I had the thought, I'm like, man, if I would have been playing on fields like this, I might still be playing.
Dan, if you could go to the regular season show notes tab and
Hoges delusion of grandeur. Yep, that's it times out just right.
My coworkers had a heyday with that phrase, so thank you for that.
Just Dan coming back with syndrome. Maybe.
It's a syndrome. That's right. Man.
Yeah, I may be a bit prone to hyperbole and thinking highly of my athletic ability. It might be a character issue there.
Well, Hoges, you talked about bouncing. And I tell you, if you haven't been launched off an inner tube, bounced, one might say, at high speeds behind a boat, you probably didn't grow up in the land of 10,000 lakes. But it's good news because our sponsor, Rave Sports, has all the water toys to upgrade your lake lifestyle. Whether you're looking to give the kids the ride of their lives in one of Rave's state-of-the-art hyper tubes, or to chill out on the 4-person Big Easy, or just get a workout in on an inflatable Coda paddleboard, Rave Sport has your lake life covered. Make memories and make it the best summer ever at ravesports.com. And don't forget, use that promo code POLTAB for 20% off your order. Rave Sports, make waves.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
So I think we're going to go in like order of importance. I think so. We're going to start. Shout out to an ex-Twin who's retiring. Michael A. Taylor is hanging it up here. He spent a lot of years in the league, 10 years in the league, it seems like, across many different teams. He won a ring. Who did he win a ring with?
Nationals?
Nationals, yes, I think you're right. Yeah, with Brian Dozier. Oh my goodness, the Twins on that roster, man, let me tell you.
I'm not dead.
But so kudos to Michael A. Taylor. I hope he has a lot of fun in retirement, gets to spend time with family and get involved. I don't know if he's got kids and stuff. I'm sure he does, but just great for him. And obviously, we have some great memories with Michael A. Taylor as a Twin and just the admirable job that he did all of the time that Buxton spent on the IL during that season.
I got a foul ball from him, too, at a game. Yeah, it was pretty sweet that my son's had. It's probably lost somewhere in the basement, but it was cool getting it.
Well, speaking of retirement, a couple guys might be going into it early. So the Giants have fired Bob Melvin, and the Rangers fired Bruce Bochy. So that's two pretty experienced managers who are now available. I don't know that they're going to keep managing. Certainly Bochy, isn't he like 70 years old? Do you think he wants to keep doing this?
You got to think he's going to the Giants, though. Like, they already were asking Posey about it because that was his manager when he was playing there, if that's who he was looking at. And his answer was, well, the Rangers still have him under contract, so I can't talk about that. So clearly he knew that question was coming. I could see him going back there. I don't know about Melvin. I feel like he'll probably get some offers just because of the success that he's had. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where those guys end up, especially as things just tend to trend younger and younger in professional sports.
Yeah, Melvin is 63 as well. So he's still got some years left, you would think.
Yeah, Bochy is 70. But I don't think he's done. He doesn't seem done, does he?
I mean,
I'm not dead.
That sounder is getting its work
I know,
today.
well, yeah.
I think they're both incredibly interesting candidates. This isn't like Tommy Lasorda where we were talking about where you just like pulling a guy out of the senior living home and bringing him back. Both of these guys have had success, and recently I tend to think they're both going to find a job.
I mean, is Ron still around? Gardy? Let's give him a call. He's still living.
I thought you've been Washington. I'm like, yeah.
I don't know who's older. I'd have to look that up.
It's close.
But really, that sort of leads us into this next segment, folks, which I'm lovingly calling our llama segment.
Yeah, I'm a llama again.
So,
poor Rocco.
It's important to note the timing here because the Star Tribune, odd timing, I'd say, releases two articles. Yeah. One with the guy who we've learned to love, Joe Pohlad, and one with the new guy, a Pohlad who we haven't really heard from before, Tom Pohlad. And these articles, boys, the tone deafness with which both of these articles were written is shocking. And it comes to a point where you have to, they always say ascribe to stupidity first before you ascribe to malice. I've moved on. You can't be this dumb. You cannot be this dumb. This is clearly done with malice and forethought. If they were in a court of law, life sentences for all of them. That's what I have to say as far as baseball ownership is concerned. But I want to read to you guys real quick a tweet put out by the Mets owner, Steve Cohen. This tweet, I don't even think if you made the Pohlads read this, it would compute in their minds what it would mean to be this concerned about a fan base and this thoughtful, okay? So this is what Steve Cohen wrote after the Mets missed out on the postseason and the Reds squeaked in by like a half game. Mets fans everywhere, I owe you an apology. You did your part by showing up and supporting this team. We didn't do our part. We will do a postmortem and figure out the obvious and less obvious reasons why the team didn't perform up to your or my expectations. We are all feeling raw emotions today. I know how much time and effort you've put into this team. The result is unacceptable. Your emotions tell me how much you care and continues to motivate the organization to do better. Thank you to the best fans in sports. What if you read that to the Pohlads? What would their response be?
They'd think is idiotic. Why? They'd be like, why do you even care about that? Because you're right. It doesn't even compute with them at all. Not even in the slightest. And it's crazy to think, too, how much a statement coming from them, even if it was like through a publicist, would still mean to us. It would.
Yes.
I mean, we're jaded, right? So the first time we read it, we'd be like, there's no way that came from them. But if it legitimately came from them, it would mean so much. Like, okay, you try. You understand that this team is losing. You're doing something to fix it. I don't think they care about the product on the field. I legitimately do not think that matters to them in the absolute slightest. And it matters to him.
Well, I think we know from reading the other article that it doesn't actually matter. I mean, like, that baseball has never really mattered to Joe. I thought that was one of the more telling things to read out of one of these interviews is that he admits he wasn't even like a baseball fan growing up. And that's fine. But then why are you in charge of the baseball team now? He said that he kind of like, well, first of all, his background, I shouldn't mock too much here, right? But he talks about tough life that he had growing up, that he had to work at a bagelry and a bank teller and he'd wake up calls for a landscaping job. And that's wonderful. But then he goes to Portland like everybody did in the late aughts, right? And lives out his best coffee shop life. And then he decides, maybe I'll go back and join the family business. And yet the whole article is about him it being this down-to-earth reluctant guy. And it's have to go back and do that. You just you ran out of other things to do. So you then decided, I guess I'll find interest in the baseball team again. That's not a person who's passionate about baseball. That's a person who kind of, again, backed into the family business.
And whoever wrote this article, first of all, he wasn't born on third base. Yeah, he was born on home plate. Yeah. He didn't have to run any bases. He wouldn't have had to work a day in his life if he didn't want to. And you know what? You know what I don't want to read about, boys? Billionaires waking up and meditating by listening to Bon Iver. I'm sorry,
I think.
But me hearing the joke. Dan, give me a minute here. Let me talk. You can correct my pronunciation whenever you want, but not when I'm this upset, okay? I don't care that a billionaire wakes up in the morning and centers himself by meditating and listening to pretentious indie music. I'm sorry. That's not the article that's going to win me over in the eyes of the owners. I don't fully understand what the thought process was, other than everyone thinking, I didn't know the Pohlads owned the Star Trib. That's all I was thinking the entire time I'm reading that article is, when did that get added to their portfolio?
Such weird timing. Why are you writing a puff piece about the Pohlads when all of this stuff is going down, when they are public enemy number one in Minnesota and well earned public enemy number one.
Yeah, it's strange. And it was strange because it wasn't sports guys who were writing it either. And so, and I get how this happens sometimes, but why wasn't it Phil Miller? I don't understand why the Star Tribune. So I don't know the inner workings of that.
He didn't want to go out being the guy who wrote a puff piece on the poll. Can you imagine Phil Miller's in his editor's office and they're like, before you go, this team that you've covered for a decade plus, could you go ahead and write an article about how beloved the owners should be in the eyes of the fans?
We would like all of your readers to hate you on your way.
Yeah, that
is our goal.
But real quick, we have to talk about this. Tom Pohlad, this new guy coming out of the shadows. So he said a couple of very interesting things. The most interesting of which is that, first of all, he's very tired of the negativity from the fan base. Okay, Tom. Sorry about that. Do you ever think the negativity is based upon something? This is not a chicken and the egg situation, Tom. This is very clear what happened first for the fan negativity. So let's start there. But then, secondly, for him to explain to us how, no, we don't take money from the Twins to help our other failing businesses. We've never done that. We take money from our other failing businesses and putting it into a failing baseball team. Well, it's not working, Tom. You need a couple new accountants here to figure out these numbers. Then he goes on talking about how if he knew that these investors were an option to help him clear the $500 million debt they've somehow accrued, they would have never put the team on the market in the first place.
Yeah.
Hogwash.
Where did that come from?
Who believes any of this?
None. Not at all. That was ridiculous. When I read that quote, I was like, huh? What? What are you talking about? It was on the sale for 12 months, and that when you realize, maybe we could just have someone pay off our debt.
Wouldn't that be great if somebody just came and paid off your debt like that? I don't understand. Why did they do that?
If anyone wants to send me a check for my house payment, that would be phenomenal. I will take you up on it.
It's the only way that Hoges will no longer be called a fair-weathered fan, is if they pay the house payment.
I know I say it wrong. It's funny too, because I was talking to a friend right before that we recorded, and I kept saying that, and he's like, "Why are you saying fair-weathered?" And I'm like, "Am I?" And so I knew it, but I can't stop saying it. It's there. But you know what? Actually, I take all that back. Dan's reason in the last podcast for me saying that I'm a fair-weathered fan is actually accurate. That's what I meant all along.
Way
playing
too much
the long
for
game.
Hoges. Not a chance. Hoges, I could have put you in a room and said, come up with an explanation for why you say it this way, and that would never have crossed your mind once.
It was beautiful. Beautiful.
All right, so I think we should move on. We should talk about the elephant who's no longer in the room. Well, the llama who's no longer in the room, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm a llama again.
Rocco Baldelli fired after 7 seasons. He's the only manager that this podcast has ever officially known here. So he was let go. Obviously, we'll need to get a new sounder. I think that was my first takeaway. What do you guys think? Right timing, bad timing, right move, wrong move?
Terrible timing. So let's start there. So you could understand them firing him at the beginning of the season. You don't understand why they're firing him now, knowing they picked up the option for his contract next season when he wasn't performing well. So the timing doesn't make from a business perspective. What you've said is basically, hey, let's tell him that we're going to pay him next year, knowing that we're going to fire him at the end of the season. I just don't understand this from a business perspective. It makes no sense. I'll let you guys talk, and then I got to figure out the baseball side of things. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this.
I think this is interesting podcast timing for us too, because we've all just recently had episodes with each other where we could talk about like what we thought about Rocco's future.
Yeah.
And I thought it's rare that we all perfectly agree, but I think we're all on the same page here. Like if you're going to fire him in the beginning of the year, or at the end of last year's collapse, or at the end of May before they went on that 13-game winning streak. Like that's the time. That's when you need that spark. So the reasons for firing him, I'm kind of okay with, right? Like the younger guys didn't ever get better. Royce Lewis, Jose Miranda, Edward or Julian, like they all, if anything, regressed from where they started from. That falls on the manager, I think. So that is a legitimate reason. Collapses, having wavy seasons, that falls on the manager too. But I think Dan and I talked about this the most. I think this is the most impressed I've ever been with him is these last couple months.
Yeah.
With changing the entire identity of this team, getting speed on the bases, letting them run loose, and still managing the bullpen and starters as well as he did. It just makes zero sense to me. And it's weird because I don't actually ultimately disagree with the move because there's reasons for it. Just the timing is idiotic.
Yeah, I mean, the timing has never been their best suit, it seems like, either, because I do think we've talked throughout the whole season about how we could totally rationalize firing him. I think too many young guys have not developed. I think this is too important of a time now, especially if we are in another age of totally slashed payrolls. They need these next younger guys to play well for this team to be competitive without doing the signings that we would love to see, but probably aren't going to happen. They need Wally Jenkins to be good. They need Rodriguez to come up and be able to play well. Kalen Culpepper could be coming up at some point next year too. So like I would love to see them hire a manager who has a track record of taking top prospects and transferring that into good play. And I honestly think that yes, we are sad for Rocco to be fired because we don't want people to lose their jobs. That's no fun. You're right.
Some people do, but I do like Rocco.
But I wonder what the players would think about this, and if they would say, well, you know what, like they're obviously publicly going to be like, oh, it's sad to see him. They're going to say all the right things, except maybe Royce Lewis. But do you think that they're legitimately upset that he's gone, or do you think they get it too?
He's the one.
I think most of them saw this coming because an additional change was bound to take place. Where I get confused if I'm a player in the Twins organization right now is if they don't move Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez in the offseason, what are we doing here? Like, at least if they move those guys, which I don't think they should, let me start there, it at least makes their intentions clear. If you're a player on this organization, they are in rip it down to the studs, right? The other option is they spend some money in free agency, fill in the gaps in the batting order, and build up the bullpen. But again, that doesn't make any sense either. Why did you trade Jackson Duran then if that's what your plan was?
And Varland.
And Varland, yeah.
I know we can keep going on there, but...
Yes. But, so I guess my thought is I still don't understand what the plan moving forward is for this organization. And if I'm a player in the org, all I'm thinking is clearly they want youth and athleticism, but I still don't see the big picture of what they're like. When is our window supposed to be?
And I think Rocco kind of showed that he can manage a little bit with athleticism at the end of the year. So that's just a weird little quirk to it too. I think the timing is what's throwing me off the most. Like I get what you're saying there, David. But the other thing too, and this is stupid that we're even acknowledging this, Rocco is probably making what, 2 to 3 million, something like that. That's a huge free agent signing for the Minnesota Twins that they are going to be just paying off next year. And the Pohlads, you can be dang sure that is impacting the bottom line of this payroll, which is so stupid. But like they're paying him next year. I can't get over that. They're paying him next year.
Hang on. The 2 to 3 million huge free agent. That was sarcasm, right, Hoges?
For the
It's
Twins,
like half of Harrison
that is a huge
Bader,
free
right?
agent
I mean, like
signing.
that's.
I mean, we got Carlos Correa getting 35, and then after that, it's like I don't know, what do we have left?
The way you said that with a straight face, I'm like, there's no way he.
What did they sign Michael Taylor for?
It is
Wasn't that
sarcastic,
Michael Taylor
but-
contract like $5 million or something like that when they got him?
That's what I
Ty
mean.
France
Yeah,
was only
see,
$1
there you
million.
go.
After all, miss, this is France.
If you guys saw the Twins sign a $3 million player, you'd be like, wow, I'm surprised that I mean, you would going into this year because it seems like anyone who's making anything more than $750,000 is gone.
He's out of here.
What you were talking about on the last episode just has my brain in an absolute pretzel with the Ryan and Lopez thing. And I think you're dead right. Like, if they keep them, what are they doing? I want them to keep them, but if they keep them, what are they doing? Like, I that's not
I
the
knew
route.
exactly what to do, but in a much more real sense, I had no idea.
I think they're trying to compete. This is the thing that I wish
So they're going to keep
I think
them.
so. I wish the Pohlad boys would have said something about this. Like, these are the questions that I want to know. Is tell me, Joe, tell me, Tom. I didn't know who you were, Tom, but tell me, please, what are you going to do next year? Are you going to rebuild the bullpen, or are you going to tear it apart? They didn't say that. Also, to your house metaphor, if you tear it down to the studs, you have this intention of putting it back together. I don't know that they have the intention of putting it back. I think they want to live in a house that doesn't have a roof on it and just say, all right, well, let's do the best we can. Like, maybe put some tarps up.
No. They want us
That's true.
to
They
live in
want
the
us to
house
live
that
in
doesn't have the roof on it, while they sit up on the house on top of the hill looking down on it.
Builders are like onions.
Well, so I guess this is really what it comes down to. I don't think any of us are shocked that Rocco got fired. We disagree with the timing. It makes very little sense. Do you see this being a good move? In 2 years from now, are we going to look back at this and say, man, we should have hung on to Rocco? Or are we going to say, maybe it was his time to go?
I think it's a good thing so long as they hire a manager who can do the things that Rocco couldn't. My worry is that they're going to hire a manager who is a stopgap or is not a great choice. That's my worry, is that they're going to botch the hiring. I don't know. Hopefully Falvey has a voice. We can criticize Falvey for his moves and all of this.
Well, and guys, it's kind of for lack of a better metaphor, it's a win-win that's not a metaphor. For lack of a better term, it's a win-win for them right now, because even if the next manager loses 100 games, you'll be like, well, that's what it was. And it's not, I mean, you can't expect them to do any better after losing the entire team at the trade deadline. And then if they end up winning 80 games next year, you're going to be like, oh yeah, it's a better season than we had when we would have had Rocco.
I'm having a hard time thinking about next season already with postseason baseball happening, to be honest with you. Because I'm so curious what the AL Central is going to look like. Because going into the season, we thought, oh man, it's going to be Guardians, it's going to be Royals, it's going to be Twins, all sort of fighting for the division. Maybe the Tigers have a shot too with their starting rotation. But I don't think any of us would have said at the beginning of the season, it's going to be Cleveland versus Detroit in the first round with the wild card.
You just hold that thought. We're going to get to that prediction later when we have to go back to our preseason predictions here. I wasn't as far off as you guys were about some of these things.
Whoa.
Well, shots fired. Okay, I didn't think the Twins would have a winning record, and you guys said they were going to literally get to the World Series. So I am the guy. I have credibility here that you guys lack. I'm going to say
we
that.
have joy in our hearts.
That might be.
Dan.
Have you no joy in your life? Is there no song in your heart?
I tell you. Now, but do you have a name that you would want them to replace Rocco with right now? Because you can see there's lots of articles. You can look at the Star Tribune. I'm sure the Athletic will have one soon if they don't have one already, of names out there. Do you got a guy who kind of resonates?
I mean, the in vogue thing to say right now is Torrey Hunter.
But took the words out of my mouth.
But from the way that Trevor Plouffe from the booth, or I think it was on a podcast, I don't remember, but he was basically like, Torrey Hunter's ticked at the Twins, and I don't know, I have to assume it's financial, right? Like the Twins weren't going to give him any money, basically, to be like a special advisor, whatever that phoning title is that they give guys who show up at spring training. But like, I guess there's some hurt there. And Trevor Plouffe was like, you can get these guys back, but you gotta do some apologizing and really make some moves. So let's just take that off the table. Assume that the Twins could offer this job to anybody and there isn't any reconciliation necessary ahead of time. Who would I want? Perhaps a lame take. I think you go with someone who's like assuredly steady, because one of the complaints that we consistently had with Rocco is the fundamentals for this team often were their downfall. Whether that's hitting with runners in scoring position, whether that's fielding, whether that's understanding how to run the bases properly, or which cutoff guy to hit. Like, there's so many times that we complain about Rocco not drilling into these young guys these standards of baseball. And so for me, I kind of want to go with a boring guy who knows how to keep these young guys in check. And yeah, I want to hear that it's just like Tom Kelly, where he had those young guys running for hours, the Good Morning America drills at first base. You know, that's what I want to hear about with this new manager. I don't know if I want to hear about a guy named Rocco who comes in and says, guys can kind of show up when they want. You know, they're professional. They're going to get their work in. No, I need a guy who's going to slap the wrists of these young guys when they're bobbling ground balls and overthrowing first base.
Yeah, so you're leaning towards them having way less of a player's coach and having it be more of like just a tough rule follower, stricter guy. I think that is probably where they end up going. It's hard to think of a guy like that, though. Like, there's not a whole lot of those old farts still running around. Like, I don't think Francona's job is going to be up here anytime soon. And even him, you're going to call a players coach, too.
Dan would pass out with
He would.
I would love that.
I'm trying to think of like a good
my
example, though. And there's not a whole lot of, I don't know.
I mean,
don't
young
know
people can still be like that. They can still have the old baseball
is true.
mentality. So I think it's certainly possible.
I think more of an age gap is necessary. Truly, I do. I think it should be a closed door manager as opposed to an open door manager. Like, I see Rocco in the clubhouse holding drum circles, right? And like sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor. I want a manager who can't sit crisscross applesauce on the floor.
But I think that's why Torrey Hunter's kind of an intriguing candidate for me, because I think he might have a little bit of the mix of both of that. He's a former player, so he's going to garner respect right away. And you imagine a guy like that's going to come in wanting to set pretty strict standards. I mean, he played good fundamental baseball. He played great defense. He didn't make mental errors. Like, that's the kind of guy I want. He's well-spoken, too. Because he's been able to do stuff with the media afterwards. He was in the LA environment. I'm kind of talking myself into this as a pretty decent candidate. And he's younger, so he can still like interact with that younger generation and get those young guys to perform. I think they're going to need a lot out of this new manager. You're not stepping into a good situation. I don't hate that idea there.
I think the issue is he might be the Angels guy, right? Because Ron Washington has got to be close to retirement too, and so he's already at the Angels system. I've read some things about that, and that's pretty convincing to me. If he does indeed have these issues with the Twins as an organization right now, why would he leave Southern California?
I can ignore that. David said I can ignore that. Come on.
I don't think you can, though. I don't think you can ignore that. I think that's a big factor.
Hoges made some pretty good points here as far as Torrey Hunter is concerned, and I think if he said those words that you just said, Hoges, that like he's there to set a high standard and like really drill into these guys how to play proper baseball, I can get behind that. I'm just thinking
he was the leader of those divisional teams. I mean, that goes without saying, and like a vocal leader too. Like, not to like bash on my first love of Joe Mauer and everything, but I'm so sick of these guys that are like lead by example. Like, I want a guy that's kind of yell a little bit, and Torrey Hunter felt like that guy.
So there's sort of, I like to think of this span as the Joe Mauer to Josh Donaldson scale that I've created in my head. So you have Joe Mauer, great player, leading by example, not vocal. Josh Donaldson with the Twins, not a great player, very loud, not helpful. Like, so I like to think that's where the scale is. And I think where we want is about 70% in the Josh Donaldson side of things with this new manager.
That seems like where I'd put Torrey Hunter without like knowing him personally. Like, I feels like that might be the sweet spot.
I suppose LaTroy Hawkins would be an interesting one too, because I am convinced.
He would be
just
phenomenal.
Just listening to him in the booth, how upset he gets.
There
when
would
the
be
Twins make
no
a mistake.
mincing words at all.
Dude,
mean, you're just gonna hear it straight from the source.
It'd be phenomenal though. You
The
know,
post-game interviews. That would be must-see TV.
Yeah, Eddie Julian needs to play a better second base. Like,
Duh. Are you watching?
Hoges, when I want to get fired up, I head outdoors, I turn my grill on, Hoges, and I throw some meat on that grill. And you know where I get that meat, Hoges? I get it at Cub Foods. And right now, it's the fall. I love grilling in the fall. You can have a beer out there. It stays pretty cold because it's not too hot out. You get the warmth of the grill. You're not needing to shed layers because you want to flip burgers. But Hoges, let me tell you, Cub Foods is your one-stop shop for all of your grocery needs. With everyday fresh products and a wide selection, you'll be in great shape to host the next grill out with all your backyard essentials. Grab your fresh produce at deli meats, party trays, and bakery all in one stop. With over 100 locations in Minnesota, check out your local Cub on your next shopping trip for all of your fall-time essentials.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett! Puckett's Picks winner.
We have a minute here, Hoges, while Dan's away. And I just wanted to be able to tell you on air, I am so appreciative to take the victory of Puckett's Picks for the season. I just thought I'd love to take this moment and just, it's fun to get not only that win, but also the win knowing you're going to have to come to my house and play board games. I should have added, you should have to wear a Vikings hat.
You didn't get the win. Oh, no. You know what? I'm going to interrupt you right now. You did not win. What Dan said when we gave it to you, it couldn't be more true. You backed in. You needed the listeners to win. I don't care that you were going to be second place. That's besides the point. I went 1-17, I think, in the last 18 series. If that's not handing you the victory, I truly do not know what is.
Hoges, I spend all day looking at spreadsheets, and in this season review show, let me tell you, I'm going to bring it. With the way you boys have treated my win with such disrespect, you will be weeping at the end looking at these Puckett's pick stats.
All right, can we save that, guys? Can we
playing
look
board games? I'm going to be weeping.
lots of tears in
Puckett
Hoges' future?
All I want is the tears of Hoges. That's really what I want. I want to fill up a tumbler.
That better be the title.
I want to drink
better
it.
be the title right there.
Okay, well, yeah, let's as Dan said, he's trying to push us forward. We're dilly-dallying here. It's just so hard because we thought we were out of shows, and then as soon as we're out, they pull us right back in. But so what we've done here, folks, is we put together our postseason predictions. Now, we do know a couple of game results already, but we did have all of these predictions done prior to the game's beginning. However, a quick note here. First of all, both of these boys, as opposed to, filling in a bracket or making it look nice to make the predictions clear and really, really nice looking, Dan filled out on 3 cells in a spreadsheet what he wanted to have happen. And Hoges sent me a text message with just all of the results in an order that made no sense. He didn't do like half the bracket than the other half. He's like, I'm going to do it round by round and make this as confusing as possible.
I did a quarter of the bracket. And then
but my favorite thing about both of them is neither of them sent me a accurate bracket.
Oh, you
meaning
up too,
meaning
Dan?
that they each had incorrect statements
What are you
within
talking
their
about?
bracket.
Mine was accurate.
Yours was not. It was not, Dan. You had to change it on the spreadsheet because
I changed my mind,
incorrect.
but that was before you made the postseason
False
picture graphic.
Dan Thompson. Do I need to go check the text?
What
Do
are
I
you
need to
talking
check
do you
the
have it?
text?
Do you have it blacked out that you can?
No, Dan did in fact have an incorrect statement here in his bracket initially, which I had to clarify. And then Hoges sends me that the Cubs are going to beat the Padres.
No, lose.
No, excuse me. The
Lose to the
Padres are going to beat the Cubs, and then the Cubs are going to beat Milwaukee, which would be impressive. I don't know what
cool.
bracket Hoges is looking at, but apparently there's a losers bracket that you can somehow work your way back in.
The bad thing is when you sent me that, I had to think for a long time then about who I actually wanted to win that first round again, because I think the Cubs are going to beat the Brewers and possibly the Phillies too, but I thought they're going to lose to the Padres, but that kind of takes away the whole Brewers-Cubs series, which I thought was going to be fun. It was a mess.
Can't have it both ways, Hoges. You got to make a
I
choice.
tried. I did try.
Okay, well, so do you want to give your postseason predictions first, Dan, and then we'll go Hoges, then I'll finish up and we'll get out of here.
All right, so I picked the Tigers over the Guardians. I picked the Yankees over the Red Sox. And then I'll just finish out my AL. I picked the Mariners over the Tigers. I picked the Blue Jays over the Yankees. And I picked the Mariners over the Blue Jays to get to the World Series. And then on the other side, I wanted to pick the Reds so badly, but I couldn't. I picked the Dodgers instead. I picked the Padres over the Cubs. And then I picked the Phillies over the Dodgers, the Brewers over the Padres. So I have a lot of faith in these teams that are taking a week off. And then the Brewers over the Phillies. And in the World Series between the Brewers and the Mariners, I picked the Mariners in 7.
So real quick, just to interject, receipts, which I always like to have.
Yeah.
Dan. Here's the text message I sent to Dan Thompson. Dan, your AL doesn't add up. I think you mean Mariners over Jays. And you said, certainly. So I had to fix your bracket.
What did I
because
say?
That's not
what
what
did
you
it say
had.
in there? It said
You had a team. You had the Yankees over the Mariners, or the Mariners over the Yankees, not over the
that's
Jays.
a mistake. I didn't mean to do it that way.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you know what, boys? Sometimes I realize I don't mind taking the lead on administration, but when I tell you
We
you
know
made a
you're
mistake,
going
and I
to.
and
You've
I
trained
have the
us.
receipts. At least be gracious enough to admit it. Dan's like, I didn't make a mistake. No, I changed my
would we do
mind.
that?
No, your bracket was impossible. It didn't add up. Just admit it.
I didn't
Take
realize
the
that
L,
it didn't.
move
I
on.
didn't know what you said. I don't know. I was teaching all day, David. I barely gave that any thought. Oh, thanks,
You were
David.
you were
It's like one of
teaching
the
at 8
auto
p.m. at
options,
night?
right? Thank you, David, for fixing it for me. Like I say it so much.
No,
It just fills in
I don't even
automatically.
need to thank you. All I need is I don't need this hostility when I tell you you've made a mistake. I fix it for you, and then you say you didn't make a mistake.
Maybe don't tell us we make mistakes
Yeah.
so condescendingly. Then we won't be defensive.
I told him it didn't add up. It wasn't I could have said, "Hey Dan, have you ever filled out a bracket before?" That's not what I said.
All right, I'll look at
think
it while
mine
Hoges
says-
goes over his. Yeah,
I think mine said, "You doofus, the Cubs can't win both rounds."
That's not what it said.
Yeah, that's what it says right here. You doofus. How did...
I said, how do the Padres beat the Cubs, but then the Cubs beat the Brewers? That's
yeah, but
what
your tone said, hey, doofus.
To be fair, yes, that one was pretty sarcastic. Because
All right, I'll give my predictions. I have the Guardians beating the Tigers and completing the Tigers' collapse. Then I have the Yankees over the Red Sox. Continuing in the AL, I have the Mariners beating the Guardians and the Blue Jays beating the Yankees, with the Blue Jays heading to the World Series. Then in the NL, again, I did want to pick the Reds too. I think that's interesting, but I have the Dodgers beating the Reds. And then ultimately, I decided to pick the Cubs beating the Padres, Phillies beating the Dodgers, and the Cubs beating the Brewers, with the Phillies advancing to the World Series and beating the Blue Jays beating the Phillies in 7. And I liked what Dan said. It's tough picking these teams that have a bye, because we've seen it time and time again. When you have those 5 to 6 days off, that can be really rough on that team with the division winner.
I hope that either of your brackets happen as opposed to mine. I picked mine based on what I thought would happen, and I hate it kind of a lot. So I'll start with the AL, which I hate the most, I think. So I have Cleveland over Detroit. And to be honest, I didn't even think that was going to be a series. So the result today was interesting. I do have Seattle over Cleveland, but then I have the Yanks over my beloved Red Sox. I have the Yanks over the Blue Jays. I have the Yanks over the Mariners going to the World Series, which I do not want to see. Let me just say that. Plain as day, I do not want to see that. On the NL side of things, I would love it if the Reds win. I don't see it happening. It's going to be Dodgers over the Reds, and then the Dodgers over the Phillies. On the bottom half of that bracket, I have the Cubs over the Padres, which I don't mind. I have the Cubs over the Brewers, which I'm sad about. Then I have the Cubs over the Dodgers, which I'm happy about. So World Series will be Yankees-Cubs, but Yankees over the Cubs in 6. Again, I do not wish for my bracket to happen, but that is what I believe will happen.
That's no fun. You got to pick the bracket you want to see, not the bracket you think you'll see.
No, Dan, I love your bracket a lot, Dan. I really do. I would probably put the Cubs over the Padres, I think, because if the Padres aren't going to face the Dodgers, I care less about the Padres advancing.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Dan's is shockingly close to like exactly what I want to have happen too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like Dan's bracket would be phenomenal baseball to watch, and like you actually have teams you can cheer for. I just think it's very unlikely.
I win a decent amount of money if the Brewers end up pulling this off, though. I would like to point that out.
How much money, Hoges?
$1,000, actually. I put a bet on them about 3 months ago when they were ranked really, really low, and it's hooked up pretty good for me so far.
So you're gonna bring dinner on the board game night as well.
There you go.
Yeah, if the Brewers are still alive.
All right, well, listeners, thank you again for coming back to us so quickly here. Again, we didn't think we would have an episode, so we're going to say again that we're not going to have one until the season wrap after the World Series, but we will see if that happens. Hoges, thanks for joining us, and I think with that, I'm going to send us out. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Men for the Win and find our Men for the Win Facebook and Instagram pages. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you could leave us a rating or like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.